The same lineup on Israeli television was the same, one and the same of every other sort of Jewish family, I think, around the world. Number one, Sydney. Number two is what we will come to right now, and that is, of course, the murder of one of Hollywood's greatest directors, Rob Reiner, and his wife, Michelle. The suspect in this is their son. I mean, every part of the story is horrendous, and it's hard to try and talk about his body of work, which is so impressive. Before we talk about the actual tragedy, I think your friend Hadley Freeman had this beautiful piece she wrote in the Free Press, and the title was "Rob Reiner Deserved a Happily Ever After." Which I think is very poignant, because it's true. He really was, on every level, it seems, a mensch, and a person who was so talented, and in so many ways, not only in filmmaking, that really the sort of gut-wrenching feeling all of us had when we realized the story was I think the same all over the world, really.
Just one thing to say about, you mentioned friend of the podcast, Hadley Freeman, a friend of mine. We're indebted to her for several things that we know about Rob Reiner, and indeed particularly about the film that you and I both love, which is When Harry Met Sally, it was in an interview with her that Rob Reiner explained that the ending of the film came in part through meeting his wife, Michelle, who obviously, as we know, was murdered with him. That's certainly the allegation and assumption. The story was that beautiful romantic comedy that we both revere was going to end with Harry not getting together with Sally. They were going to go their separate ways or remain friends, but not get together. He then met Michelle on the set of filming When Harry Met Sally. A mutual friend, I think Barry Sonnenfeld, involved in the film, said, "You've got to meet this woman." Saw her, fell for her, more or less love at first sight, and then believed again that romance really is possible, and therefore gave Harry and Sally their happily ever after. Thankfully. And there's more, actually. Again, my source for this, in part, Hadley, who is working on a biography of Nora Ephron, who wrote When Harry Met Sally. We will talk about all that. You can hear what other revelations we know and what insights we know into that film and into the work left for us by Rob Reiner. I also, will make a point about him having great yichus, an underused Yiddish word, which means it's not the right word, sort of pedigree, lineage, meaning the family he came from. We will talk about all of that in that extra look at the life and work of Rob Reiner.
Yeah, but two things just to mention briefly. One, just the range, right, of this man having to, on the one, directing these romantic comedies and these courtroom dramas and horror in Misery and satire in Spinal Tap and coming of age drama in Stand By Me. I mean, what a range, and a director that I think his ego was put aside for his, and instead came his deep respect for writers, for stories, for actors, for characters. It is not a coincidence, I think, that he never won an Academy Award. He made it seem so effortless, what he did, a bit of sort of a Jeff Bridges in a director. Just to think of, again, we'll talk about this more, but just to think of, I think in a way, he looked at everything as being really a romantic story. Of course, it's easy to prove in The American President, When Harry Met Sally, and The Princess Bride, but also in a sense, I would claim, in A Few Good Men, which is not a quest for true love, but it is a romantic quest for the truth.
Yes.
And this, even that line, right? I want the truth, you can't handle the truth. Just how much depth there is, and how much room for that kind of conversation, his respect for words, his respect for dialogue. This is a man that we haven't seen. And it's interesting, I spoke to a philanthropist yesterday who said to me, in the philanthropy world, Rob Reiner is a legend. And you'd think, okay, the film world, he's a legend. No, she said just his work, even on legalizing gay marriage, even on things like that, again, the range of this man is something so impressive.
And we will talk about all of that and pay tribute to Rob Reiner, his extraordinary work, and as you say, the range. I think there is no writer in the world who doesn't, writer of books in particular, who doesn't have a special place in their heart for Misery, which I think is the most brilliant spoof on the not spoof, but brilliant.
Even
take
that's kind
on
of romantic, right? Of course, a very warped romance.
It's about the pressure of a deadline. I mean, it's just the most brilliant thing of his imagination. There's obviously from Stephen King, but the idea that writers live in terror of having to complete a book, and so that is taken to the most extreme logical conclusion in the form of that brilliant film Misery. But there's many, many others. We're going to talk about them all. But as you said, it's not just in film. He is a huge loss to the wider world too, in terms of his conscience and as a citizen. And you mentioned his philanthropy. So all of that we'll talk about. So we would certainly have given any kind of awards to Rob Reiner.